My name is Arthenox, and this is Cloaked Mysteries, the channel where time bleeds, and the universe reveals the price life had to pay to exist. Some say we live in the worst of all worlds, surrounded by disasters, changing climates, and hostile creatures. But what if I told you that our modern planet is only a gentle echo of the true hell that Earth once was? A world where the rain burned like acid, where the sky spat fire, and the oceans boiled like molten metal. Today, you will witness the birth of our home not as a miracle but as a cosmic curse. Before the first light, before the concept of morning itself, the universe was an abyss of absolute silence. There was no color, no sound, no direction, only the eternal cold embracing nothingness. Colossal clouds of gas and dust drifted like cosmic ghosts, without purpose, without destination. And for billions of years, the void believed it would last forever. But the death of ancient stars changed everything. When supernovas exploded, the universe was torn apart by waves of fire and energy. The ashes of forgotten worlds mingled together, giving birth to everything that would ever exist. It was chaos igniting chaos, a symphony of destruction that created creation itself. The pressure and heat of those explosions fused hydrogen and helium into cores of pure fury. And from that collapse, a new star awoke the sun. But the newborn sun was not the gentle star we know today. It trembled, spitting flares that crossed the void like blazing serpents. With every eruption, fragments of light collided with shards of metal and stone, creating a celestial battlefield. It was a young and violent god, still learning to control its own power. And around it, a storm of dust began to secretly unite. Between the embers and the ash, a cluster began to take shape, small, unstable, unpredictable. Fragments collided, melted, and collided again, until chaos became a sphere. That burning mass orbited the sun like a rebellious child, bound by an invisible leash of gravity. Its name would one day be Earth, though back then, it was nothing but a roar of fire shaped into a planet. Nothing alive could have endured its surface for even a second, and yet, life was already watching, silently. Inside the young Earth, temperatures were beyond imagination. The molten iron core spun in fury, creating a magnetic field, an invisible shield that would one day protect everything. But for now, there was nothing to protect, only the echo of thunder rising from beneath the crust. The planet shook, spat poisonous gases, and built mountains only to destroy them seconds later. Earth was a heart without skin, beating in the dark, dreaming of becoming a home. Then destiny approached a neighboring planet scientists would later call Thea. It wandered the same newborn system, until Earth's gravity pulled it in. The impact between the two worlds was so violent that space itself glowed like a second Sunday. Millions of tons of rock were thrown into orbit, forming a shining ring around the planet. From that collision, the moon was born, a silver scar, eternal witness to the violence that made us. After the moon's creation, Earth became a spectacle of fury. The planet spun in despair, completing a rotation in just 5 hours. Each dawn was thunder, each night, an endless lightning storm. The crust boiled like a cauldron of molten metal, vomiting rivers of fire that devoured mountains. The sky, if it could even be called a sky, was a suffocating veil of ash and sulfur. Temperatures were so extreme that the very idea of life was an insult to logic. Meteors sliced through the air like incandescent blades, and lightning split the heavens in silent rage. But amid all this destruction, something began to change. The fury began to tire, and the unbearable heat gave way to slowness. For the first time, the planet seemed to take a breath. Vapor rose from the depths and began to condense. Thick, heavy clouds formed, like curtains closing over the scene of an ancient crime. And then it rained. For thousands upon thousands of years, rain fell without rest, striking the molten ground until it hardened. It was as if the sky itself wept for the pain of its own birth. Every drop evaporated before touching the earth, rose again, and fell once more. It was a cycle of agony and persistence, a duel between fire and water, until one day the fire gave in, and where there had once been deserts of ash, the first seas began to form. Hell slowly turned blue. But that blue was not peace, it was survival. The newborn oceans were acidic, thick, and boiling like blood under pressure. The air was still poison, filled with gases that would burn any breath of life. And yet, something stirred in the depths. That silent movement would change the destiny of the planet forever. Among minerals and heat, molecules began to unite and divide. In dark vents at the ocean's bottom, chemistry became will. Matter organized itself, defying the impossible, and created the first spark of biological consciousness. A single-celled organism, invisible to the cosmos, was born in the heart of chaos. And in that instant, Earth for the first time was no longer alone. For countless ages, the planet breathed in silence. Tiny, stubborn forms of life multiplied in the liquid shadows of oceans that had never seen the sky. These minuscule beings needed no air, no light, only warmth and darkness. And within that primordial soup, they built the first monuments of Earth limestone columns called stromatolites. Microscopic temples raised by the persistence of life against the impossible. For billions of years, the world belonged to them bacteria that ate stone and exhaled invisible energy. But nature never tolerates monotony. Some of these creatures learned to use sunlight, and what had been mere survival became power. They absorbed the brilliance of the sun and turned it into nourishment. But the price of this new gift was a poison that would change everything. Photosynthesis released a strange new gas into the air, oxygen. At first, it was devoured by iron, oxidizing the rocks and turning the seas red. But slowly, the oxygen began to build up and the planet collapsed under its own transformation. For ancient creatures that couldn't stand it, the air became torture. What we call breathing today began as a scream of suffocation. The event was so devastating that scientists now call it the Great Oxidation. Thousands of species vanished, consumed by their own creation. Oceans once teeming with life became silent graveyards. Earth witnessed its first mass extinction caused not by fire, nor ice but by air. The planet learned, for the first time, that to live is also to destroy. Yet oxygen brought more than death. With it, the sky began to change color. Clouds turned white, and the blue that now crowns our world was born from tragedy. The atmosphere gained clarity but also fragility, a thin line between life and nothingness. And under this new veil, Earth prepared for its next ordeal, eternal cold. As the poisoned air spread, methane, the gas that had once kept the planet warm, disappeared. The greenhouse effect collapsed, and the temperature plummeted. Oceans froze, seas turned into deserts of ice, and the blue planet turned white. Life, once again, was put to the test. Oxygen had created a new world but also unleashed a new curse. The blue planet became a crystal. Frozen oceans, continents buried in ice, and the sun reflected across a white wasteland. It was the Huronian glaciation, lasting over 300 million years. Earth slept and dreamed of fire. But beneath the ice, the impossible still pulsed. Bacteria survived, hidden in thermal vents deep beneath the sea. They lived without light, nourished only by heat and minerals. There, in the darkness, the future waited patiently. The ice was only another trial, proof that life refuses to obey the cosmos. It survives even when the universe itself tries to erase it. And then the sun awoke once more. Its strength grew, melting entire oceans. Earth wept rivers, and from them emerged multicellular organisms, plants, and predators. The cold became forests, and the ice turned to blood. Life, reborn, was preparing for its next great trial. It was the Carboniferous period, and the air was thick with oxygen, nearly 35. Jungles grew dense, swamps breathed, and the world itself became a giant lung. But this excess of oxygen gave birth to monsters. Dragonflies the size of eagles, spiders as large as cats, millipedes stretching over 2 meters long. Earth was a living nightmare, a colossal hive, vibrating with wings and venom. The air hummed with the sound of life and death. Every leaf hid an ambush. Existence had become a silent war for breath. The forests were cathedrals of terror and wonder. It was an age when nature tested its limits and fear was its only language. Nothing on Earth is permanent, not even Earth itself. The planet moves like a sleeping beast, changing form as it dreams. Ancient continents united, broke apart, and collided again, birthing mountains and oceans. Rodinia, Pannotia, and finally Pangaea, one colossal body of stone and desert. It was the perfect stage for both the birth and the extinction of species. The crust trembled under the weight of geological gods. The ground split, fire rose, and life fled. And still, the planet kept breathing, each heartbeat a quake. Pangaea would later shatter, giving birth to the continents we know today. Nothing escapes the cycle. Not even worlds. Before the dinosaurs, there was a massacre greater than all others. It was the Great Permian Extinction, the event that almost erased life from Earth. Volcanoes erupted endlessly, covering the world in ash and sulfur, and the oceans turned to poison. 96% of marine species vanished. Not even the insects survived. In only tens of thousands of years, the planet became a stinking, silent desert. The air burned, the soil boiled, and the sky glowed red. But in the heart of that devastation, something survived: fragments of DNA that refused to die. From death came space for new monsters. And the empty throne of Earth awaited the dinosaurs. Every era of Earth has been written in fire, ice, and blood. What we call life is merely the name we give to the persistence of the impossible. Before the dinosaurs, before us, there was chaos, and from it, everything was born. This planet is not a gentle home. It is a battlefield that never stopped fighting. And if we still exist, it's because the universe decided to keep experimenting. Comment below: I would have survived the birth of Earth. Subscribe to Cloaked Mysteries, and together we will explore the depths of time, where every rock hides a secret and every breath of air is a memory of hell.